Good evening, everyone. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals for April the 13th, 2016. And our first application is an application filed by Anthony John Doe for 7 variances to construct one second floor addition above the existing dwelling and convert an existing one-car garage into living space at the property located at 62 Virginia Avenue. And before we get started, Brian, do we have cards that have come back on this application?
Yes, there were 29 sent, 21 were returned, and 1 came back undeliverable.
And who will speak on the application?
Okay, my name is Peter Garzone, and I'm the architect for Anthony Dayash. And yes, the description of the project is, as you said, 286 square foot addition to the second floor and conversion of the one-car garage to living space. And what we, the way we're going about it is we're trying to maintain the front elevation, and so we extend from, we extend 13 feet on the second floor to the south, and keep the roof line, keep the roof pitch, and extend the ridge back to the midway point. If you look here, the existing house is in dashed lines, so keep the pitch and move the ridge to the back, which is 27 feet, and extend off a little bit past the bottom of the existing first floor. The 7 variances, most of them are related to the existing condition. The first one was the front setback. The house, as existing, is 2.9 feet from the front property line. The second to the left side, which is 2.2 from the property line. The combined setbacks are at 13.8 versus the 20-foot minimum. The fourth variance is the lot width, which is actually slightly under 50 feet. It's 49.47. And the lot coverage, the building lot coverage, is at 27.8 compared to 27 max for the Appendix B. Variance 6 is the lot area itself. It's 3,979 square feet versus the 5,000 minimum allowed. And finally, the 7th is currently because the house is so close to the street, there's one off-site parking, which is in the garage, and there's a driveway, but 3/4 of it is, in the right of way. So, we're converting the garage to living space. We're requesting two on-street parking lots, and so we have 0 proposed off-street parking. And that's an overview of what we're doing.
I guess the one that troubles me a bit is the final one. You've got a garage now, so you would need 1 spot, and you'd be providing 1 spot. And I'm just wondering why you're eliminating a spot when you're doing so much work on the house.
Well, it was a cost-effective way to get more living space, which was needed. So, in order to get that living space, we would have to do, a bigger project, which would probably be more costly. That was the rationale.
Could you take us through how maybe you have a drawing of the parking and how it connects to the house as you're planning?
As we're planning, so we're planning on having 2, on-street parking. But currently, you can see there's a garage there, and there's a very short driveway. So, the past owner used to park in the driveway, so they did have 2 spots, but one of them wasn't legal. So currently, here's an elevation of the front, you know, there's basically just a window there, and the 2 parking spots will be in the road.
What will your use of the former garage be, and then come back to the site plan?
It's a bedroom and a public bathroom on the first floor. That's where the mother-in-law,
And when you say you want to designate 2 on-street parking sites, could you explain that further? You want to designate that for just the use of the home, and so they would be somehow marked out, and it would only be for the homeowners? Explain that further.
Well, I don't know if that's the way you would normally do it. Basically, you know, we're required to have 2 parking spots, and we're having trouble accommodating that requirement.
So aren't you saying that you're not going to have parking on site, you're just going to use street parking?
That's what we're saying, yes. Or that's what we're asking.
You're not asking that we designate 2 parking spaces?
No.
The front is you shown on your site plan.
No, they were just placeholders. No, we're not asking for that.
Where could you alternately put that living space? Could you put it on the 2nd floor? Would you have to create a 3rd floor?
A 3rd floor would probably be prohibited because of the stairwell, and it would be much more costly. We possibly could extend further out back, but that would be awkward, and it would be more expensive, I think.
I think one of the issues that I've seen arise in the village over the last several years is parking has become a real, there was a period of time where I was happy always usually to provide a variance of this sort because our problem wasn't not enough parking, it was not enough activity. And over the ensuing years, the problem has become not enough parking. And we see it with the restrictions around the downtown area that's going into place. And you see it in a number of other cases where we now have, we're developing a parking problem in Dobbs Ferry, which is why it's important to explore that it's always, I guess from an economic perspective, you may be saving money for your client by the solution, but it may be costing the village in the sense of not having adequate parking. So that's the question we have to come to grips with. So that's why I think it's really important to consider whether there are options within the house or within the footprint of the property to provide the living space so that we don't further burden the community on the parking issue.
Well, I don't know. I think they're difficult. We did consider, a driveway around the side and parking in the back, but that takes up, the backyard. So, we didn't like that option. But I don't know.
I guess the troubling part to me in this option is that it in effect eliminates 2 spots, the garage and the illegal parking spot, which was the old driveway. But that, it does get 2 cars off the street, and, from our perspective, that's a good thing.
Well, we will probably keep the driveway if that's allowed, even though it's not legal, which would be a car off the street.
Brian, may I ask you, what are the dimension requirements for the driveway to make one legal spot there?
A legal parking place would be 8.5 feet wide by 18 feet long.
And what are the dimensions of your driveway?
They're a little shy of that. I think it's about 17 feet or 16 and a half feet. I don't know exactly. It might be on the plans.
It wasn't.
That's not all on your property, though, is it?
No.
Right, yeah, part of that is village property, which I think technically doesn't count,
Right.
but
So you're
for
going
practical
to the
purposes would.
Street for your measure.
Going to the
there's
driveway.
about
You're going to the
4
driveway.
feet on the property, and then the rest of it's right away.
And are you intending to reuse the entirety of the garage structure, or do you have to redo that?
No, the shell stays as it is. Yeah, we're basically using that. We're gonna, the roof, the roof is kind of been put together in a couple of additions, and we're gonna unify that for a new roof at the same level. But other than that, that stays intact.
And I know there's an expense to it, if we look to set that structure back where the existing garage is, but if you were to move it back to gain a space in the driveway, have you looked at that as an option? Is that possible?
We haven't because of the cost. Actually, originally, this is the second design. Originally, what the scheme was is that there's a one-story volume off the side, and a one-story volume off the back. Originally, we were gonna use those foundations, and so we had a scheme that went over the garage. But the foundation, the existing foundation on both of these are very inadequate to put in for low time, so that kind of stopped us. And that's what made us, we couldn't really come down on this back wall, so we had to extend out further for the new foundation there. So, we looked into, yeah, and one of those schemes, we were gonna keep the garage because we were gonna get more area on the second floor, but we can't use that to build above, so.
Is the design problem really that this is like a mother-in-law suite? So that it, is much more advantageous to be on the first floor? I mean, is that?
Yes, yes.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Homeowners?
If you do, would you come to the microphone?
I don't think there's anything else I could really add. Yeah. We thought about,
Yeah, go to the mic, please. Thank you.
yeah, we thought about extending the.
Could you just, for the record, give your name and address?
Anthony John Doon, 62 Virginia Avenue. So something else we thought about was making the driveway on the right side of the garage, making the driveway. But it's just, I don't think that was possible because of setbacks and the other zoning issues that would come up to solve the on-site parking issue.
Could you address the renderings that you have, 1, 2, and 3? What are you depicting? Are those neighboring properties?
Here?
Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
yes,
if you could just
I should
explain them.
explain this. This is Virginia Ave looking south, so to the left are 3 recent houses, I think they're 2-family houses. This is the house in question, and then to the right, these are through, the properties run through from Ashford to Virginia, so you're looking at garages, I guess that used to be a service road or
And this house is basically on the same setback as those garages.
exactly. Yes.
Anybody If
in
you-
the rear yard.
Could you come up just if,
My
it's
name's
good to
John.
say something positive.
Yeah,
too.
my name's John, everybody, I live on 183 Ashford Avenue. So our home is basically in this lot, right here.
Mhm.
This addition has no impact on us. I think it's just a positive renovation of this property that I think it was a little bit run down, so I have no issue with any of the variances. I would note, I know for you guys, I know on Virginia, a lot of people, we have a driveway, but a lot of people who live on Ashford actually park on Virginia, so I always see them running through the yards.
Yes.
I don't know if that's something you take a look at in the future about, just having homeowners having some sort of, permit for their street parking. And then kind of eliminate probably a lot of parking issues of other people that don't live there, but I don't think it's,
That's for another board to
Yeah,
take up.
It sounds like a great solution. It's not one people ever want to buy into. Um,
Thank you.
Should we close and just chat among ourselves?
Yeah, move to close the hearing.
Second? All in favor? I guess I'm troubled with the parking, but there doesn't seem to be there doesn't seem to be a better way around it.
I guess I'm more conflicted than that. In that,
Well, yeah, I'm conflicted, but give, the whole mother-in-law issue,
there doesn't have to be a mother-in-law apartment. There's nothing in the code which says you have to have a mother-in-law apartment. And, everybody wants more apartment, and everybody would always like to burden the community as a whole, in a sense, providing no parking on your property, and requiring 2 spots off-street is a burden to the community as a whole. And that's the trade-off. And I'm not sure which way I'm going.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think I'm concerned by it too, just because, it's a particularly congested
Yeah,
area.
area.
it is,
Yeah.
no question. No question.
The problem with the application before us is also, I'm not sure what else has been done based on what we've heard to determine if there's an alternative. So, maybe rather than taking a vote, what I would maybe suggest is that the homeowner be given an opportunity to come back to
Alternative plans to
alternative
see.
plans to see if there's
Yeah.
some opportunity. I would also be interested, Virginia's very congested.
Absolutely.
So I'd also be interested in hearing from homeowners.
I had to find a spot to
You
check
can't,
out the
you
property.
can't find
It's
that.
very hard these days.
So maybe if we're in agreement, we can give them another opportunity
Yeah.
before.
I mean, it's their option.
And part of that is acknowledging that it's gonna cost more.
Mhm.
But it's somebody's paying, regardless of which decision you
Right.
make, somebody is
I think
paying.
it's good.
So how much are you paying?
Mhm.
So, it's part of the balancing act. So I guess you heard our deliberations. We were very secretive.
Well, I think we'd have to make a motion to reopen the hearing and allow them to consent to an adjournment, so I'd move to open.
I'll second that. All in favor? So I think you heard we have trouble with the parking. Would you like an opportunity to come back and either design something that you can live with that does not cause the degree of parking issues that this plan, puts on the community?
Let me explain just what our role is that we have to kind of balance between the public impact plus your desire. And the problem that you're talking about, unlike the other variances that you're asking us for, is somewhat self-created because you would like to have this use. So when you're self-creating kind of your own problem, not that it's an unreasonable request, we have to take a further look at it. So it would be helpful for us to have some further designs, even if there is a cost associated, and for you to put cost to that, so that we could understand if there are alternatives, such as what your neighbors have done, even though they're larger structures that have gone higher, in order to create, parking. But, there's some other things that we need. Not a desire, and so we need to understand what those alternatives would mean
Right.
to you, so that we can understand, what it would be.
And just so you understand, this is optional. You can ask us to make a ruling, although I think we've given a hint of what the
That
ruling might be.
troublesome.
And so what we're giving you is an opportunity to adjourn today, to come back another day with, further information on this point, if that's agreeable to you. If you want to take some time to talk about it.
Well, so,
You have to come back up to the mic.
They're asking
Yeah.
about, even though this isn't, the driveway isn't legal, if that could be considered, if that could be considered one parking lot, one parking spot, and then there's only one spot on the street. Did you take that into your consideration?
Is that an area variance that we can grant?
That's a board of trustees.
I think that's a board of trustees, right?
Correct. The use
So-
of village property would be board.
Right, because you'd use village property, you'd have to go to the board of trustees to get permission. We can make variances related to dimensional issues, but that's a village use issue.
Okay.
So it's another board you'd have to go to. How they would rule, I don't know. But these are the types of things I think you should think about and then come back. And I'm sure you could consult the building department as to what your options are.
Would it be an option to use the side of the house as a driveway?
You can use the side property as a driveway, but the village code requires you to park 10 feet away from any property that's used for residential purposes. So you could drive on the driveway close to the property line, but you could not park there. You would have to use that as an ingress to another place where you could be 10 feet off of the property line, whether it be the back or the side.
In some sense, we're talking about a trade-off for the village and for yourself as the individual homeowner. And I guess we're saying, we need you now to think about the trade-offs between the things you want, like a backyard, a mother-in-law apartment, and cost. And what can you trade amongst your own priorities to come up with a solution that puts less of a burden on the village as a whole?
The option for payment in lieu of parking, how does that fit into this? Because that is a payment, right? That is a cost to the owners that, as a trade-off, as I understand, there's a fund for a parking structure. Is that something that can be considered?
I think it probably could be considered. In a case like this, I'm not sure that it should be considered, in the sense that that's mostly downtown, where the property prevents parking.
And I believe the way the code is currently structured, it's in the downtown business district, but that might be something you'd have to, again, talk to the building department and perhaps discuss with the board of trustees.
Excuse me, Sam.
Sure.
I think the code currently exists with the payment in lieu, right? The code exists with payment in lieu is just in the downtown business district?
But it was for commercial property.
He
you
would
could
know.
not get that.
He would know better than I would, but we,
Did we vote on it?
yeah, years ago.
I don't remember last month.
Where's that videotape?
very expensive. Okay, all right, so we will come back.
Yeah, and I would say, come back when you're ready. I mean, next month would be fine with us. But if you have more work to do, then the following month. The goal really is to get something that would work for you and would work for us.
Yeah, I think so in a week you have to put it back on the calendar, and you have that, right, that's just to notice it to be back on the calendar. And you could come back in a month, and if the answer is no, I can't do anything, just explain to us why.
So, if that was to stay a garage, and we have one legal spot and one, not a legal spot, again, is that something that's not self-created?
Exactly.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
That's the concept, yeah.
Right.
So, all right then, so we'll try to get back as soon as we can.
Okay, great. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move to adjourn.
Second.
In favor?
Very, very.
Do you have any minutes?
Oh,
I don't see any.
They put them on here, but we never get them.
They usually emailed out, that's Liz.
yeah, this
Yeah,
month we
but-
didn't get it.
You didn't get them.
That's not the greatest way to do it.
I didn't see any.
Suggest-
I don't think we got them.
I don't think we got it. I didn't see any.
We'll make that comment in the appropriate part.
It's,
The packet works just fine.
yeah, the packet, I would say, is